Every demigod we have met so far in Amphorius has been shown to wield an incredible amount of power. Aglaya can sense the positions and actions of nearly everyone in the Holy City, Mydamos is an immortal warrior wielding strife itself, and even Tribi can open gates to practically any location. Despite wielding the powers of literal gods, the Chrysos heirs basically got their butts handed to them by the main antagonist of 3.1, the Flamereaver. A mysterious individual clad in darkness itself that basically manhandled two Chrysos heirs and the main character. So who exactly is the Flamereaver? Are they someone we know, or are they someone completely new to the story? That's what I want to talk about in this video. The true identity of the Flamereaver. Before we discuss that in further detail, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Now, what we are about to discuss will likely spoil some parts of the 3.1 main story. So if you haven't cleared it yet and want to take your time with it, then consider this your obligatory spoiler warning. Before we get into the theories, let's talk a bit about this hooded figure first, starting from when we first meet them. When we reach the grove for the very first time, we see the Treetop University assaulted by monsters of the Black Tide. There were dead bodies and injured scholars all over the place, and the grove itself was slowly being corrupted. At the very apex of the grove, we see a seemingly defeated Anaxa about to be permanently ended by an unknown figure clad in dark robes. This unknown individual had a mask covering their face, a half-crescent dagger, and what seemed like the symbol of the sun and or moon displayed on their back. As we slowly approach them, Mem notices the smell of intense memories, one which carried the scent of bulrush, sand, and the blazing sun. Upon seeing them, Mem claims that the robed figure isn't just emanating the scent, but is the source of it, or rather the memory itself. She then sees visions of a burning paradise, a shattered sun, Cyrene's death alongside endless carnage, death, and destruction. Mem's curiosity immediately turned into abject fear, and she urged everyone to basically just get out of there. This would be our very first encounter with the Flamereaver. Through their actions, we learn that the Flamereaver is largely interested in only the Titan's core flames. When it realized that Castoris and the Trailblazer were not demigods, it told them to either stand down or die before turning its attention back to Anaxa. Later on, in a conversation between Anaxa and phainon, we learn this mysterious Flamereaver is also the very same individual who destroyed phainon's home and killed his friend Cyrene. And yes, before you start typing in the comments, I know phainon pronounced her name as Cyrene, but I'm gonna stick with Cyrene because of, personal choice. While phainon is eager to get revenge, Anaxa warns him of the strength the Reaver possesses, as he suspects its powers are not native to Amphorius and go beyond even the Titans themselves. Both of them, alongside Circe, suspect that this being originates or at least draws its power from the mysterious Black Tide. Just to list off some of its feats of strength, the Flamereaver single-handedly off-screen Oronix was able to go toe-to-toe with a demigod Mighty and even break out of the literal past Mem and everyone else threw them in. And all of this was just in 3.1. It's evidently clear that the Flamereaver is far more powerful than anyone we have met so far. So we know that they are strong, is obsessed with the core flames, and even has the means to extract them. The only thing we don't know is who in flipping blazes they are. Well, there are some ideas on who the Flamereaver is, but I'm going to start with one that I'm sure most of you probably suspect. phainon. There are some clues based on how we see the Flamereaver act and fight that suggest that this thing is indeed phainon, or at least linked to them in some way. Firstly, the Flamereaver is seemingly aware of the demigods and the core flames, something phainon as a Chrysos heir would have intimate knowledge of. The symbols on the clothing they wear and the crescent dagger they wield is a motif that appears rather often with phainon. phainon has what seems like the symbol of the sun on his back, clothes and neck, and even in the trailer, he stands in front of what looks like an eclipse. But these are superficial at best. The most convincing clue of their connection, however, is hidden in the fight between the protagonists and the Flamereaver. In this fight, we see the Flamereaver directly target Mighty's back, which seems innocuous at first. However, we learn in 3.1 that the only way to kill Mighty permanently is to drive a blade into his back, specifically his 10th thoracic vertebrae, something Mighty has shared only with phainon. If the flamereaver's attack was a calculated move, then it might be yet another hint at their connection with phainon. Of course, this could just be a coincidence. I mean, Mighty was exposed in the fight, and the flamereaver was perhaps just attacking and exposed back, something anyone would do. But given the other clues, it does seem to at least suggest this flamereaver is linked to phainon in some way. Now, that said, there are quite a few problems with this idea. First off, the very attack we see the flamereaver make on Mighty's back was also blocked by phainon himself. To add to that, we all saw phainon fight alongside us against the flamereaver. Mem's reaction when they first meet the flamereaver seems to also corroborate phainon's claims that this thing did indeed kill Cyrene. So it's kind of weird to claim that phainon is both the person next to us and the thing we're fighting. If they are one in the same, how could they both exist at the same time and place? Well, this is where the nature of Amphorius comes in. There is a theory circulating currently that Amphorius exists within a loop, and many, myself included, suspect that Amphorius repeats on a fixed cycle. Humanity defeats the gods, takes their powers, resets the world using those powers, and in the next cycle end up becoming the new gods, and this repeats. From the outside looking in, Amphorius sits at the center of what appears to be a Mobius strip, or an infinity symbol, which could be another hint at its cyclical nature. Several titans have also warned the chrysos heirs not to pursue the prophecy, almost as if they knew what will end up happening. The titans themselves were said to have gained their powers from the gods before them, further hinting that this loop has repeated itself for at least one generation before the titans. So if Amphorius is a loop, perhaps the flamereaver is simply an alternate version of phainon, one that exists in a past or future loop. This opens up the possibility of two phainons existing simultaneously, one in the current timeline and another from a different one. Mem's description of them might further lend to this idea. She mentioned that the flamereaver smelt of sand and a blazing sun while evoking images of a burning paradise and shattered sun. So perhaps in this alternate timeline or loop, the chrysos heirs failed, leading to the utter destruction of Amphorius, and that version of phainon is now desperately looking to undo their failure, taking on the persona of the flamereaver. If we were to compare phainon for just a moment with his Honkai Impact counterpart, Kevin Kaslana, Kevin was known to take the direct approach to solving problems. They were definitely an ends justify the means type of person, so maybe this alternate phainon thinks in the same way or was just driven to that extreme. In fact, would it be too crazy to think that this alternate phainon might even tap into the powers of the Black Tide itself? The idea that the flamereaver is able to traverse different loops isn't entirely crazy either, given we see them break out of the literal past Mem and friends threw them in. That said, this might just be due to them having possession of Oronix's core flame by the time of that fight. So the flamereaver could just be an alternate version of phainon, at least that's what all this suggests. Now, as compelling as this idea is, I'm not 100% convinced. Don't get me wrong, I'm like about 80 to 90% of the way there, but just to be thorough, let's consider some alternatives. One other idea that came to mind is that this individual might instead be Cyrene. The only reason why I think the flamereaver might be Cyrene is because when Mem caught a whiff of the flamereaver, among the many descriptions Mem provides, the only image that came up was that of Cyrene. Now, maybe what Mem smelt was the death that the flamereaver dealt, but maybe it's more straightforward than that. Maybe what Mem smelt was literally just Cyrene. In the few moments we see Cyrene speak to phainon at the end of 3.0, we know that she wants phainon to become a hero, so what if she's just playing the part of the villain here? She's the one that destroyed Hades Elysiae, she's the one that forced phainon on the road of vengeance, and she's the one now acting as the antagonist. Plus, the whole thing feels too convenient. For most of phainon's life, he has wanted to take revenge on the flamereaver, and this has been what motivated him. Recently, however, he reaffirmed his goals to focus more on the flame chase journey. As soon as he did that, the very same villain from his past shows up and is suddenly interested in the core flames, something the chrysos heirs are working towards. Plus, now that I think about it, if the flamereaver has only ever been interested in the core flames, why did they even attack Hades Elysiae? There didn't seem to be any core flames there anyways, at least as far as we know. So it seems that the flamereaver is often in locations where phainon happen to be and seems to act in the opposite manner to them, almost as if they are trying to get a rise out of them. On top of that, the Honkai Impact version of Cyrene, Elysia, was the individual who brought the flame chasers together, so perhaps here they are acting villainous to do the same. Given all the remembrance and memo sprite stuff going on, who's to say the Reaver isn't Cyrene or her memo sprite, carrying on her dream of seeing phainon become a true hero? Now, with that said, we don't actually know that much about Cyrene. She could really just be dead based on the two cutscenes we've seen before. Plus, there are a ton of other possibilities that could explain the identity of the Flamereaver. Maybe they are an emanator of the third hidden eon, or they could be the Stellaron we all know is here somewhere. Or they might even be Phainon's memo sprite, corrupted by the Fragmentum or his dark past or even the Black Tide. I'll likely explore all these other ideas in another video because some of them seem pretty interesting, but for now, let's bring this video to a close. The Flamereaver is the newest big bad we are introduced to and seems immensely powerful and hell-bent on taking all the core flames for themselves. While we don't know who they really are, they are highly suspected, at least for the moment, to be phainon or some alternate version of him given the similarities they share. But to know for sure, we'd have to wait for more of the story to unfold. Do you think phainon really is the Flamereaver or are they someone else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found the video entertaining, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching and as usual, have a nice day.